These are some of my favorite hitters that I'm taking with that last pick. If you can't wait for draft season, guess what? You don't have to. Join Underdog Fantasy and you can draft right now for MLB Best Ball for the 2024 season. They've got some new contests that just opened up. Check them out right now. If you sign up and use promo code Endgame, you get a 100% deposit match for your first $100 that you put into your account. Try Underdog Fantasy today. James Wood is really no secret because he's a big prospect for Washington. And I don't just mean that he's their number 2 prospect overall. He's a big guy. 6'6", 234, massive power, got good speed too. I mean, it's just a matter of time before this guy becomes a star. But is it going to happen this year? Is he going to make the opening day roster? We don't know, and that's why he's not being drafted in most redraft leagues. But I'll tell you, he's doing everything he can to make an impression and prove that he's ready for the majors. So far in spring training, he's 6th among all qualified batters in OPS, 3 home runs, 6 RBIs, and 3 stolen bases. Now, I've already talked about Dylan Cruz, their other mega-talented outfield prospect. Seems like a can't-miss prospect either. With Wood, the concern is that he's such a big, lanky hitter, more of a power guy. Is he going to strike out too much? So far, he hasn't. In fact, he hasn't had elevated strikeout numbers in the minors in his short time in the minors, and he doesn't seem overmatched in spring training. Now, will the Nats actually bring him up to start the season? Again, that's the question that nobody really has the answer to with any of these teams. But we see more and more now that MLB has been smart and incentivized clubs with those compensatory picks to actually try to get some of their top prospects on major league rosters early. There's a much better chance than there would have been just a couple years ago. And even if Wood isn't there at the very start of April, it's just a matter of time, and I don't think it'll be a long time. I mean, who in that Nats outfield is really keeping Wood and Cruz out, and these guys are all ready to roll. Now, not every player I'm going to talk about is a rookie, but again, if you're in a league where you have NA spots and you can roster a guy who doesn't get called up immediately and stash him for a while, this is exactly the type of player you do that with. And so is my next pick. Last year was Jordan Walker. This year, Victor Scott is the Cardinals outfielder that's getting a lot of buzz. He's a very different type of player than Walker. While Walker is, like Wood, also more of a power hitter, Scott is just a speedster. And that's partly why Scott has really gone under the radar, because that's really all he was. He didn't put up big numbers throughout the minors or even in college. You know, he definitely had the speed, but you got to get on base, right? Didn't really have much power. He still hasn't shown that, but he's getting on base. He's hitting at a high clip in spring, and he's flashing his speed. Got 4 steals in just 11 games this spring. You don't want to do the whole fun prorating over the full season thing and just assume he's going to be an everyday player. Yeah, he could get you 50-plus steals, but we know that that's possible. Again, elite speed. This reminds me a little bit of last year's Esteury Ruiz, who wound up leading the majors in stolen bases. Now, the big difference is in Oakland with Ruiz, there was absolutely no reason not to play him every day because it's Oakland. And in St. Louis, yeah, there is some more competition, but there could be a path for him. Tommy Edman, starting center fielder, is going to start the season on the shelf. They have some guys that are gone. Tyler O'Neill is not there anymore. There could be a spot for him come opening day. So I don't always love taking a player just for a category, especially if it's just steals, but man, if he could be the league leader in the category, Victor Scott will definitely pay off with a final pick. Now, I don't think there's too much question whether Jonathan Aranda of the Tampa Bay Rays is going to be on the roster to start the season. Right now, both Roster Resource and MLB Playing Time have him slotted as the starting DH against right-handed pitching. Better yet, they each have him slotted in the middle of the lineup, hitting either 4th or 5th. The downside is he's projected to split time with Harold Ramirez at DH in a lefty-righty platoon, but he should be on the strong side of it, and if he hits, he might just hold on to that, especially if he shows he can hit lefties. You'd think a high-end prospect in an organization like Tampa would get more publicity in the fantasy circles, but the thing is, he's already had a little bit of taste of the majors and didn't do too well so far. Over 190 major league plate appearances the last 2 seasons, only hit 212. But that is still a small sample size, and this is a player who's just raked in the minors, hitting well over 300 for pretty much every stop he's been at. And he's got major power, hence being 4th or 5th in the lineup potentially. I won't say that Aranda is a can't-miss prospect, but he definitely looks like a guy it's just a matter of time before he figures it out, and it might not take too long. Now, a player that I'm back in on, at least getting there again for 2024, is Garrett Mitchell, who could be a starting outfielder for the Brewers. I say could be because I feel like every time I talk about the Brewers, with a couple of exceptions, there's just so much here still to be determined. We really don't know how this lineup's going to play out, especially having a new manager, Pat Murphy. With Mitchell, the big question is just, is he going to be ready to start the season? Is he healthy? Looks like the answer is yes. You may remember Mitchell to end the 2022 season, came on pretty strong, and then had a pretty good start to the 23 season before suffering a season-ending injury, and then everyone just forgot all about him. Well, I remember I was high on him last year, and don't know what he could have done over a full season. We'll get a chance to find out, and it looks like there is a path to playing time in this Milwaukee outfield. I'll come out and admit it, Brenton Doyle of the Rockies is not a guy I've been really aware of at all until middle of last season. The reason is he was not really projected to be a big fantasy asset. This guy, I'll tell you first, is an elite fielder and runner. And when I say elite, I mean it. We're talking 99th percentile among all the StatCast stats that matter for fielding, 98th percentile for sprint speed. And now the downside. Last year he hit .203 and had a strikeout rate of 35%, which is one of the worst in the majors. So he's flashed a little bit of power, and of course he has speed, but I mean, if he can't go better than 200 as far as batting average, he's not going to be out there very long, or at least not anywhere near the middle of the order. Well, he's got strides to make, and so far, again, I get it, it's spring training, but so far so good. In fact, he's cut down his strikeout rate to below 20% right now. Will it hold up over the regular season when he's facing real rotation members of every staff? We'll see. But when you see a guy with this type of athleticism, he's got power and speed, as I mentioned. If he can get the average to be respectable, then it could all come together to at least make a valuable outfielder. And hey, you're taking him with your last pick. Would you be surprised if I told you that the starting center fielder for the Houston Astros, one of the best teams in baseball year after year, isn't even being drafted with an ADP way outside the 300s? It's true because the starting center fielder is Jake Meyers. Meyers also very good fielder, not so great a hitter. The last 2 seasons hit .227 at the major league level. Now, he put up really good numbers even at the AAA level. He's got some power, hit for average. Problem is he's not too good with breaking balls at the pro level. Now I'll just come out and say this one is mostly about opportunity. The fact that he's in such a good lineup, he's going to be playing, I feel, pretty much every day. And he's got a shot to improve, at least to the point where he can get you some stats here and there. I can't say there's any sort of full-fledged breakout here, but look, as an outfield depth piece, it's definitely somebody who could intrigue you. Now let's go to New York. Not a lot of secrets there because these guys get a lot more publicity. But again, kind of a forgotten name here, Mark Vientos. Mets fans are aware. And, maybe if you follow prospects pretty closely, you know this guy with massive power had a chance last year to really claim hold of either the third base or DH job and didn't do it. Look, there's still a job up for grabs here. Vientos, at the very least, could platoon with Brett Beatty at third base or Ji-Man Choi at DH. That means we could see him in the lineup on a semi-regular basis. What are we going to get from him? Power. This is really kind of a one-category wonder, but you're looking for home runs late and cheap. Vientos has that. Already has 4 home runs in the spring. Unfortunately, it's also coming along with, as expected, a high strikeout rate, a 33% clip. I feel like Vientos is going to be one of those guys that you're going to want to stream when he's hot and maybe sit when he's not. And look, at this point, again, you're talking about a bench stash, a late round flyer with upside. At least he's got that upside, and you know the potential he has to help you in a given week or two in the power department. And then you know how to throw in another flyer for steals. Here's Estevan Florial, who's now Cleveland Guardian. Florial, speedy, very toolsy kind of player. Look, the last 2 years in the minors, he stole 39 bases, then last year 25 bases. The dip in steals might be concerning, except that he traded some of that speed for power. Last year at AAA, he hit 28 home runs to go with the 25 steals, and he's batted .284 and .283 those last 2 years at AAA. Yankees couldn't find room for him, so now he's off to Cleveland, where he only has to beat out Miles Straw, Ramon Laureano. It's been 2 years now. I'm waiting for Florial to assert himself in the majors, take hold of a center field job, and not let go. We'll see if it happens this year, but at the very least, you've got a guy who's got upside now in multiple categories. Draft season is in full effect for fantasy baseball. You need the best advice on who to pick and who to avoid. Check out this playlist right here.